Welcome to the Podcast Marketing Magic live training webinar. I am your host, Seth Green. We are going to go ahead and get started in about 7 minutes. Welcome to the Podcast Marketing Magic training webinar. We are going to go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes. Welcome to the podcast Marketing Magic live training webinar. This is Seth Green, your host, and we are going to dive right in and get started. So, you are about to discover how to get impossible to reach decision makers to seek you out, how to write a book without writing a book, and how 20 minutes a week can get you 20 people referring you business. This is the exact system I created that got incredible results for me and my marketing firm. Then we started beta testing it on our existing clients and said, hey, would you mind if we tried this out on you? Would you be a guinea pig? And it worked really well. So then we went live with it and started doing it for other folks as a standalone done for you service. And it's been getting incredible results. So I am excited to share with you the exact steps we use to get those results and that you can too. I hope you've got your action guide printed out and ready to fill in the blanks. And we're going to go right ahead and just dive right in. So I don't want to assume that everybody on the webinar knows what a podcast is. So a podcast is like a radio show on your phone. So that is number one on your action guide. The blanks are radio show. So why would you want to have a radio show on your phone? Well, A, it's a whole lot cheaper than terrestrial radio. It costs next to nothing in comparison to starting a quote unquote real radio show. You can target precisely exactly the people you want to listen to your radio show on your phone, unlike a regular radio show. And right now there are over 1 billion people listening to podcasts. I have the top rated marketing podcast called Direct Response Marketing. And again, I said I tested this on myself first, and it got my podcast in front of 2.2 million people and is still driving a large percentage of revenue through our doors. And so then that's why I said, I wonder if this would work in a quote unquote regular business if you weren't a marketing firm. And it really came about because of necessity. Because a large part of our business had been a unique skill set we developed at Facebook advertising. And unfortunately, and we had many clients for that service. We were getting them stellar results. And then Facebook changed their terms of service and made it very difficult to accomplish what we were doing and literally turned away. I mean, we had clients we were managing $1 million a month or more in Facebook ads for. And Facebook said, sorry, you're shut down. We don't want your money anymore, which made no sense to me considering the only way Facebook makes money is by selling ads. So I said, we need a way to get our clients faster results than Facebook, cheaper results than Facebook that work better and that isn't Facebook dependent, that isn't dependent on someone else's social media. And that's how this was born. And I was interviewing 15 of the top podcasters in the world, people, some of whom audiences in the millions. And I found they were all following the same business model, which was build up until you have a giant listener base, like 1 million people, and then sell ads, sell sponsorships, generate affiliate commissions. And I said, that's great for them, but the average local business owner, the doctor, lawyer, financial planner, dentist, author, speaker, coach, consultant, is never going to get a list that size. I mean, if you're a dentist in a small town, you might have a couple thousand people at the most who are going to listen to your show. And you certainly don't want a second job trying to sell ads on your show, especially when you don't have a big audience. So how can I create a way that the regular entrepreneur can make money from a podcast almost from the beginning and not have to sell a single ad or sponsorship? And that's what Podcast Marketing Magic is all about. Now, right now, there are currently 1 billion people subscribed to podcasts. And that number is about to triple in the next 5 years. The reason for that is what you're looking at right now. And this is called Apple CarPlay. And Apple has spent $1 billion. Actually, it's more than that. It's signing deals with every major car manufacturer. So when you go get your next new car, not a new used car, but a new car, this is what your interface is going to look like on your dashboard. And this little purple icon right here is the Apple Podcast icon, the app. It's a native app in your car now. You won't be able to delete it even if you want to. So number 2 on your action guide is CarPlay, will cause the number of podcast listeners to triple in the next 5 years. There will be 3 billion people listening to podcasts. And the question is, are they going to find you? Because the 2 most used apps on a smartphone other than Facebook are the podcast app and Amazon. So if you don't have a podcast in a book, how are they going to find you? And I'm about to share with you the solution to both of those things. That's why the time is now to take advantage of this, because with CarPlay coming, this is the new ground floor of podcasting. Who am I? In case you don't know, why should you listen to me? I have written 5 Amazon best-selling books on marketing: Financial Advisor Marketing Magic, Real Estate Marketing Magic, Cutting Edge Marketing Magic, Online Marketing Magic, and the Facebook Ninja. And my 6th book, Podcast Marketing Magic, just got picked up by a major publisher. So I'm super excited that I will soon have a book in Barnes & Noble, which is on my bucket list. I've been featured in real media like the Wall Street Journal, CBS, Money Watch, CNN, NBC, ABC, Fox, Boston Globe, Miami Herald, to name a few. And the happy guy next to me in the picture is legendary marketing guru Dan Kennedy, who is the #1 marketing consultant, copywriter on the planet. And I've been fortunate enough that he's nominated me for Marketer of the Year back to back 3 years in a row, which has never been done before. So I get to pinch myself a lot. But I didn't start out that way. I didn't wake up one day and this happened. I was originally going to Syracuse. I went to Syracuse University for undergrad, and my original undergraduate degree was in acting. My life goal at the age of 18 was to be a Broadway star. And, obviously that didn't work out quite that way. And I will tell you why. Because my senior year, 2 of my friends and I decided to produce a musical. So we formed a student organization. We went to the student government. We got the government to give us our budget, and poof, we were producers. And everything was going great, except when it wasn't. Because I got a phone call 6 weeks before opening night from the student government saying, you need to come in for a meeting tomorrow. We need to talk. If you've ever gotten a we need to talk phone call, it's never good news. Your girlfriend never says we need to talk, I love you. It's I want to be friends, right? I never want to be friends. If your boss says we need to talk, it's usually not you're getting a raise. So we went into the meeting and they said, we made a mistake. The bylaws of Syracuse University prevent us from giving a first-time student organization so much money. We need half your budget back. And I said, you can't have it back. I'm 6 weeks from opening night. I'm building sets. I'm sewing costumes. I'm buying rights for the music. I'm in rehearsals. You can't have it. I said, oh, you don't understand. We're not asking you. We already took the money from your bank account today. We just wanted to let you know so that you didn't think someone had robbed you tomorrow. So that was not a fun meeting. So my friends and I went back to my apartment and said, we tried to figure out how to produce the show on half the budget, but we couldn't. So what were we going to do? Well, if you've ever seen the movie Top Gun, you remember this guy who told Tom Cruise, son, your ego's writing checks your body can't cash. And that's what my ego did. I said, guys, I got this brilliant idea. We're sitting at my dining room table. I'm looking, and my mail's sitting right there, and I got these pre-approved credit card applications. Why don't I just sign them and charge the show? And, I'll probably have to lie about how much money I make because I've got a part-time job, but, it probably doesn't qualify for this kind of credit. But I'll charge the show. We'll sell tickets to make the money back. And if we don't make enough money, you guys will just get credit cards and write me balance transfer checks, and we'll split it 3 ways. And they said, Seth, that's a great idea. Go do it. And so I did it, except I knew nothing about marketing. So the only people who bought tickets to our show were the friends and parents of people who were in the show. So I went back to my friends and I said, guys, we're graduating now. This is how much we owe. You got to split it with me. And they, of course, called their parents and said, hey, mom and dad, can we go get credit cards and charge this? And their parents, of course, said no, which is what my parents would have said had I asked. And I didn't want to ask for permission because I didn't want them to talk me out of it. So I was left stuck holding all the debt. and I had no way to pay it back. And one of the worst days of my life, I had to go bankrupt. And I felt terrible because I couldn't pay the money back and I couldn't even make the monthly payments. It was so much. And I'm sitting in bankruptcy court and the trustee says, "You spent how much money on a musical?" And explain that to me. And so I did. And he said, "Son, I've been doing this longer, than you've been alive." And I thought I had seen everything, but I'd never seen a bankruptcy. I'd never seen a musical on a credit card before. This is a first for me. I can't wait to tell the other trustees at happy hour about this one. I said, I'm glad this is funny to you. This is my life. So I decided maybe being a producer wasn't for me. And perhaps because I had just borrowed a bunch of money to gamble on something I knew nothing about and lost big time, I should change my career choice and go become a financial advisor. It's a logical career change, right? So that's what I did. I went to work for a Fortune 500 company in the financial services field, and I made 300 cold calls a day, 5 days a week, interrupting strangers, asking them for money because that's what my branch manager told me to do. He said, that's how you build the client base. It's how I did it 20 years ago. It's good enough for me. It's good enough for you. Get on the phone, smile and dial. And I hated it. But I didn't know any better until one day I was reading in my spare time. One of my hobbies is I'm a professional magician, and I don't just make money disappear. Anyway, so I was reading a magic magazine, a magician trade journal. I know. Yes, magicians have trade journals. You never would think that. And there was a full-page ad for a marketing course for magicians. But I didn't have the money, remember? I'm cold calling. So I went to my parents. I said, "Can you buy this for me for my birthday present?" And they said, "Sure." I used other people's money. I got the marketing course. I implemented it. I didn't learn any new tricks. I didn't become a better magician, but I learned direct response marketing. And in 30 days, I was the busiest, most expensive magician in Western New York, in Buffalo, where I live. So it worked really well. So I went to Dave D, the guy who sold me the course, and I said, "Where'd you learn this stuff?" And he said, "Dan Kennedy." I said, "Sign me up." So I went to Dan, and Dad said, "You're doing everything wrong. You shouldn't be making cold calls. Write me this really big check, and I'll change your life." Obviously, his pitch was a lot better than that, but I'm shortening it for the purposes of this presentation so we can get to what you're here to learn about. So I went home to my wife, and I said, "Honey, 12 months ago, we got married. 9 months ago, we bought our first house. 3 months ago, we had our first baby, my son, Max. And 3 weeks ago, you quit your job to be a stay-at-home mom. And I'm our sole breadwinner, and I'm making cold calls for a living, but I need to go borrow more money than our mortgage to go hire this guy, Dan." And she said, "Didn't you tell me a story about the last time you borrowed a whole bunch of money and it didn't work out so well?" I'm going to say no. So she said no. And so I came back the next day, and she said no again. And I came back the next day, and she said no again. After day 31, she said, "You better pray this works." So I hired Dan, and Dan quadrupled my revenue in the first 2 years. The financial services firm I worked for had 6,700 financial advisors. When I started, I was one up from the bottom, second to last place. And in 2 years of working with Dan, I went to the top 30 in the country for opening new accounts. So it worked really, really well. And I said on my call with Dan, 2 years later, I said, "Dan, what do I do now?" And he said, "Start a marketing company and do this for other people." So I did. And that started Market Domination LLC. And that was me and one client 8 years ago. And it's taken off because, again, I follow the principles of direct response marketing that he taught and continues to teach me. And now we've got an office building full of a wonderful team, and we've got hundreds of clients all over the world. So it's been absolutely incredible. Along the way, as I mentioned, I wrote 6 books. And what we're here to talk about tonight is how podcasting is your freedom. It's your freedom from the challenges so many of us are facing. The whole, where's my next referral coming from? Where's my next client coming from? I speak all over the country about marketing, and I ask my audiences, where does the majority of your business come from? And most people say word of mouth or referrals. And I'll say, "How many referrals are you going to get next month?" And they'll say, "I don't know. They just come in when they come in." I said, "Can you deposit that in the bank account?" And they say, "Not really." So what if there was a solution to that? I'm here to share that with you right now. Because as you'll see, number 3 on your action guide, iTunes is not a social network. iTunes is a media platform. It's a media platform. And what that means is having a podcast, number 4, makes you a reporter. I want you to let that sink in. Having a podcast on a media platform makes you a reporter. And what do reporters do? Number 5, reporters interview people. They interview people. They don't cold call and say, hey, would you like to be written about in the newspaper? Would you like to be interviewed on the radio? People chase them because they're the reporter, and they can give people what Mary Kay says people want more than money and sex. They can give people recognition. And once you're a reporter, you can do the same thing. So I'll give you an example. This is the Outdoor Boardroom podcast from our client, Gary Okino. And Gary uses this to get in front of impossible to reach decision makers. On the show, he interviews Fortune 500 CEOs and CEOs of really big companies. And he interviews them about life and business lessons they've learned on the golf course. And I'm going to give you 3 of the magic questions we scripted for Gary, and that we script the questions for all of our clients. On the interview, he asked those CEOs 3 magic questions. And I want you to fill these out and then think about how you could use them in your business. The first magic question is, what's your biggest challenge with your golf game? What's your biggest challenge with X? The second question is, what golf course is on your bucket list? And the third question is, who do you want to play with? So let's say the CEO says, I have a vicious slice. I'd like to play St. Andrews, and I'd like to play with BJ Singh. After the interview, Gary says, would you be open to me sending you some information about how you could play St. Andrews with BJ Singh? And he's like, come on, you're kidding. No, there's no way. And Gary said, can I send you something about that? And the CEO says, of course you can. And then Gary sends them what we call a shock and awe box, a customized shock and awe box to that CEO, who then signs up for Gary's last golf lesson ever program, which is $100,000 a year, because he flies out on a private jet, picks up the CEO, flies to BJ Singh, picks him up, pays him his $50,000 appearance fee, flies to St. Andrews. They play golf for 2 or 3 days straight. He fixes the CEO's slice in 2 days, and they fly back. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to have a $100,000 a year equivalent program. But the funny thing is, when we execute our proven direct response multimedia multi-step campaign to the PR department of that Fortune 500 company saying we have a media appearance for your CEO, they jump and they say, we'd be happy to get Mr. Chambers on your show. No one's ever asked Gary how many listeners he has, which is really good, because when we started the show, when the first CEO was on it, we had 10 listeners and 9 of them were my staff and 1 was Gary. Podcasts are so new, nobody asked that question because they don't know. So just let your wheels spin about, wow, is there a prospect in my industry or a potential client or a referral source that just one would change my world because of how big they are, because of how big a check they could write, because of who they know and who they're able to influence. Because what are they going to do when they're on your show? They're going to tell the world about it because they look good. It's in their self-interest to promote themselves. And then I'm going to show you how to turn this into a book, and then they'll promote the book for you too and hand out copies for you, thus generating a ton of new business for you. This is an estate planning attorney, and he said, I want referrals from nursing homes, CPAs, and financial advisors. And I said, let's interview him for your book about estate planning. He's local in my market, as you can see by the title. And so we did our marketing campaign to those groups of people. They said yes. They were interviewed in the show. And then we turned that into a book by transcribing the episodes and editing them. And then we sold copies to all of the people in the book at cost. We don't want to make any money selling books, but we sold them to them at $3, $4 a pop because we want to get as many out there as possible. So they would buy 200, 300, 400 copies and hand them out to all their clients. And when the client said, wow, this is great, I was thinking about updating my will. Who do you think they go see? They go see my client because he wrote the book. Does that make sense? Are you starting to see how that could translate into a ton of referrals? If you had 20 people in the book handing out copies of your book every single month to their clients who are your ideal clients, start thinking about how that could work. This is John Cito, who wanted recognition from the New Jersey divorce lawyers because he wants to represent the women in the divorce. He wants to help you make sure you're financially okay. He's a financial advisor. And he took them out to lunch. He bought them presents, sent them stuff in the mail, never got anywhere. We sent our marketing campaign to get them to be interviewed for his book and his show. And all of a sudden now he's got 17 divorce lawyers sending him referrals every month because they're handing out his book to every client who walks in the door. And those people are calling my client John. That's how it works. This is my wife, Rebecca, and our wonderful kids, Max, Ella, and Lily. And these are some of the third world entrepreneurs that I have helped get out of poverty by making microloans through kiva.org. We donate a percentage of our revenue to Kiva because I think entrepreneurs are going to save the world, not our government. And if we can raise the standard of living for them, there will be a huge ripple effect. I've been fortunate enough to help 750 of them, and I look forward with your help to helping a whole lot more. So here are the steps to successful podcasting. Number one, you need a concept and a name. Like you saw a couple examples, New Jersey divorce experts, estate planning experts. My podcast is called Direct Response Marketing because that's the keyword I want to rank for in iTunes. And I'll show you that in a minute. You need interview questions, and ours are psychologically scripted according to our proven format that's worked in every single industry we've done it in. There's some key elements that are important that you want to make sure happen in the show that will get the most bang for your buck in terms of getting the guest to promote it. And then you got to obviously book your first guest. So let's dive in and talk about how you rank in iTunes. Is it okay? I'm going to give you a couple secrets. So let's say I go into iTunes and I search for into podcasts, and I go search for personal branding. And then I get the number one, it goes left to right. So the number one personal branding podcast is called Life is a Marathon. But it's not really called Life is a Marathon. If you look at the title, it's Life is a Marathon, Life Coaching, Self-Esteem, Personal Development, Personal Branding, Positive Thinking. And his name isn't really Bruce Van Horn. It's Bruce Van Horn, life coach, motivational speaker, thought leader, author, blogger, runner. Why is he doing that? When iTunes gives you so many characters, how come he's using them all? Because those are the keywords he wants to rank for. They're also in his description, and they're also in the description of every show. So, couple free secrets on how to get your show to rank higher in iTunes. Use all the real estate Apple gives you for your keywords. Now, I mentioned earlier that a podcast is like a radio show on your phone. So if it's like a radio show and people are expecting a radio show, you need an introduction, like with voiceover and music and professionally done. So it sounds like a real radio show. So there are three elements your introduction needs. It needs to be a lead generation ad for your podcast. That's number 7 on your action guide, because you want to tell people why they should listen to the show. It needs to position you as the expert in your niche, and you want to tell them what to do next. You want to make sure they know, do they go to your website? Do they go follow you on social media? Do they go opt you in? Do they go opt in for a free video series, free ebook, free book, go to Amazon? What do you want them to do next? One of the biggest questions we get most often is about the technology. Do I need some fancy studio? Do I have to spend $300 on a microphone, et cetera, et cetera? And you don't. You can use freeconferencecall.com, Uber Conference, GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, Skype, et cetera. Or you can do it on a phone. There is a call recorder app I use that I'm going to show you that is free. You just pay minutes for airtime. You record your interview, and you put your professionally produced introduction in front of your interview, and that's your show. It's that simple. So let me show it to you. If I go in the App Store and I search call recorder, it's the first one that comes up. This is what it looks like. and you have to buy credits. That's the airtime. You might spend $10 a month. And then this is the record button. They've made it pretty obvious. I'm trying to make it relatively easy to use. And when you hit this button, it dials into the service. And then you hit this add contact button and you pick the person that you're calling. And then when you get them on the phone and they say they're ready, you hit the merge call button and you're recording. And you do the interview. And when you hang up, the app says you have a new recording available. What would you like us to do with it? And you say, email it to Seth and his team so they can edit it for me. Or you email it to yourself. So again, you need a professionally produced introduction, and you need a hosting service that will host your podcast and get it to iTunes. The service we use is called Libsyn.com. I am not an affiliate. I do not get paid for recommending them. I've used a number of them. I happen to like Libsyn the best. It's one of the easiest to use, the most user-friendly, and has really good analytics in terms of how many listeners and stuff you have. And then, of course, you tell iTunes. Libsyn has step-by-step instructions. You literally just cut and paste something into iTunes called your podcast feed. And then every time you upload an episode to Libsyn, it puts it on iTunes for you. So you can just wash, rinse, and repeat. Now, how you're going to turn it into a book is you're going to have every episode. You're going to transcribe every episode. Just have somebody type the words and then edit them. And obviously, you need more than just 10 or 20 interviews to make a book. You need a foreword, you need an introduction, you need a conclusion, and you should probably write a couple chapters about you, what you do, why you're different from other people who do what you do, and how fabulous you are. So there's an overarching theme to the book, and so that the people who read the book know you're the person to talk to, you're the expert in the niche, and they should come to you and what your offer is. Does that make sense? Our secret sauce is the multi-step multimedia direct response marketing campaign that gets anybody, the impossible to reach decision maker, to participate in your show and in your book. We also send a direct mail campaign that goes from you to the guest to get them to market the show, and then one that gets them to market the book. And we also write a campaign in every guest's voice for them to send to their customers and clients and patients about the book and why they're sending their client a copy of it and why that person should talk to you. Now, if you were to go to Dan Kennedy, like I did back in the day, to get those campaigns written, if you want to hire Dan to write direct response copy for you, he charges over $100,000 plus royalties. Don't worry, I'm not going to charge you that. I had a financial advisor who came to us earlier in the month that paid me $6,000 to rewrite a 3-step direct mail sequence to get seminar attendees to come into his office. And I know there's other marketing firms out there because he had used one prior that charged half as much. But you're not going to have to pay any of that because we include those campaigns for free because they're part of our marketing for your show and your book. So I hope I'm inspiring you to be our next success story, whether you do it on your own, whether I've inspired you to start your own podcast and turn it into a book. I'd love to hear your results. Or if you want to outsource it, if you want to have us do all the work for you, we're happy to do that because, if all this does for you is get you in front of your dream referral sources and prospects, is it worth it? If all it does is get your book done without you having to write it, is it worth it? And if all it does is get you new customers, clients, and patients, is it worth it? And I'm biased, obviously, but I think the answer to all three of those questions is yes. So how does our service work? If you want us to do it for you, we create your podcast for you. We create the professional introduction for you. We script it. We produce it. We do the marketing research to find out who the ideal guests are for your show. And we also execute our multiple-step multimedia marketing campaign to get them to respond. We script the interview questions for you according to our proven format. We edit the audio for you and we upload it to iTunes, all done for you. We also transcribe and edit every episode. And my publishing company does the graphic design, layout, and publishing of your book at no extra cost. We then market and promote the book. We provide marketing materials to send out to the guests in the book and write them in their voice for them to send out to their clients and patients, making it as easy for them as possible to market your book and your message, getting you more business. All driving a ton of business your way, all done for you. Now, because you're attending this webinar, I am doing a marketing test and making a special offer. Normally, we charge $9.97 a month to get you a podcast. Today, we were offering that at half off. It is $4.97 a month. And we normally charge $19.97 for the podcast and the book, because obviously there's a whole lot more work involved when it comes to producing the book. We will cut that in half, and that is at $9.97 a month. And the reason why it says 4 months is because depending on how fast you do your interviews, it generally takes 3 to 4 months to get your book done, to do enough interviews to have a book. Because we'll get you an interview every week, and it takes about, depending on how long your interviews last, it'll take 3 to 4 months to have enough done to make it a book. You can get them done faster than that, but that's the average. So $500 a month gets you the podcast, $1,000 a month gets you the book and the podcast. And in 12 months, I mean, you'll have a ton of new business and a ton of new referral relationships. I will also give you a month free of virtual assistant services from our good friends over at 123 Employee. They will spend hours and hours every month with you. The first month will be free, working with you, getting stuff done for you. They can help you with social media. They can help you with follow-up. They can help you with phone calls and emails and a whole bunch of other amazing. They can help you with spreadsheets and a lot of other great services. That is included at no extra charge. And we also have a program where you can get the podcast and the book for free. So if you sign up at podcastmarketingmagic.com/done-for-you, I'll give you 4 months. In those 4 months, all you've got to do is get 3 other people to sign up for the same service. They can even be guests on your show. You can say, hey, listen, the marketing firm that got you to respond and that is producing my book, you should have a book too. You should have a show too. So in 4 months, if you send 3 people our way who sign up, we'll do yours for free. And you've got the whole 4 months to do that. So you can sign up at podcastmarketingmagician.com/done-for-you. And I will also throw in one more awesome bonus. I teach a monthly marketing mastermind group for 2 to 3 hours every month in person, where I teach our cutting edge marketing stuff. That's a technical term. It's not just podcasting. It's not just books. It's everything we do for all of our clients. We show you what the best of what's working and what's not working so you don't make those mistakes. And we normally charge $2,364 for that. And we've got 100 people in that group and who attend virtually. And I will, because we video it and you can watch it in the membership site. And I will give you 12 months of that for free, so that you stay on top of everything in the world of direct response marketing to explode your business beyond even the amazing results you will get from the podcast and the book program. So go to podcastmarketingmagic.com/done-for-you and get enrolled now. I know I have fire hosed you with a ton of content. I'm going to take a breath and a glass of water and open it up for questions. So type your questions in that chat box, or you can direct send them to me, and we will go ahead and answer them for you. Excuse me. How much time does this take? Great question. So generally, we guarantee you at least 1 interview a week, and interviews generally go 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how long you talk and how long they talk for. So that's why it said 20 minutes a week to 20 new referral partners promoting your business. Because again, they'll promote that they're on the show, they'll promote that they're in the book, all driving their clients to you. So think about who's got your clients, who else serves your clients that you want, and those are the people who should be on your show. Next question. I am a financial advisor. Am I going to have issues with my compliance department? If you're a financial advisor, your financial firm may not, your broker dealer, your compliance department may not let you do the podcast part. So we would just not air the interviews on iTunes. We would just do everything else. So we have tons of we have a whole program of financial advisors who are doing the book part. So in that case, we just don't air the episode on iTunes, but everything else is the same and the results are the same. The reason why your compliance department will approve the book, because the questions can be approved in advance, and every interview transcription will get approved in advance, and the manuscript gets approved before you publish it. I missed the beginning of your call. Is this recorded? Yes, we did record this, and the recording will be going out within 24 hours. Yes, Kate, no problem. I am a pediatric dentist. How would this work for me? I've got a pediatric dentist in the program. So if you're a pediatric dentist, the way we did it for our other dentist is we would execute our marketing campaign to the top 20 pediatricians in your town, your city. We would have them be in the book and on the show. The book would be around the theme of like raising healthy kids. And then when those 20 pediatricians buy, a couple hundred copies each and hand them out to their patients, those patients are all going to, a significant number of them obviously are going to come back to you. Would you need a waiver from each interview for the book to be published? We provide that for you. So we've never had any client had an issue with that. However, there is the possibility that they could say, hey, you're selling a book and making money off of my contribution. So that's why we have them sign a release, and we provide that to you. Good question. How much are the books? Can I buy books? Yeah, of course you can. You can buy as many as you want. We don't make any money. We charge you our printing cost on the books. We do not make a markup on books. The reason I created our own publishing company is because we were referring all the publishing part, the printing part out, and those companies had large profit margins. So our clients weren't getting as many books out because they weren't buying as many copies and the guests weren't buying as many copies. So I said, if I cut out the middleman and don't make any money on the book part, I can get a whole lot more books out. So it depends on how many pages and if there's color pictures or stuff in the book, and how many you buy. The more you buy, the cheaper it gets. But you're looking at like between $3 to $5 a copy for books. It is a real book. We also publish to both Amazon and Kindle. So not only will you get physical copies, but you are an Amazon published author. People can order physical copies on Amazon, but you can buy them much cheaper from us. And it is also available on Kindle as an ebook. And all of that is included. Again, we don't charge any extra for that. We're not trying to make any money on the publishing part. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I hope I've inspired you. I hope you start a podcast. I hope you do a book. Obviously, if you want to do it with us, we're happy to do that for you at podcastmarketingmagic.com/done for you. The recording will go out in the next 24 hours. If you missed any of it, you can watch it again, watch it slower, pause me, whatever you want to do. I know I talk fast. And thanks so much for attending, and we look forward to hearing your success stories.